6 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting, Lancaster County Council, to order here on September the 9th, 2024. Welcome everyone here tonight as we conduct our Lancaster County business. And with that, would you please rise and join Councilmember Terry Graham as he leads us in our Pledge of Allegiance, followed by our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we give thanks for this beautiful day. We give thanks for the change of the season where we're transitioning from summer to fall. We ask that you be with us tonight as a council as we gather together and with the citizens here in attendance. Please keep us all safe. We ask us in your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, let's move on down to our approval of our agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion for Mr. Carnes, second for Ms. McGriff. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval of our agenda tonight. Next, we have our citizens' comments. Please bear in mind this are you getting feedback or is that just me? It's okay. All right. We now come to citizens' comments. Please bear in mind, this is not a period of dialogue with council or a question and answer period. This is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. I ask that you address your remarks to council as a body and not to any individual council member. Please speak into the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to address council. Your time will not start until you have provided your name and address. First, we have Blake Champion.
Good evening, Council. My name is Blake Champion. I reside at 1641 Heather Chase Drive, Indian Land. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of Council, for the opportunity for me to speak with you tonight. I come to you as a lifelong citizen of Lancaster County and an almost career-long employee of the county as well. I've had an honor to work in this great county and live here. September is Suicide Awareness Month. Tomorrow, September 10th, being, that is a lot of reverb coming through there. September 10th tomorrow is World Suicide Prevention Day. Out of multiple studies that have been performed in the past on our first responders and their mental health, most of all studies have found that 30% of our first responders will develop some sort of mental health condition, be it PTSD, substance abuse, suicidal ideations, or attempts. Out of EMTs and paramedics that were surveyed, 37% had contemplated suicide, while 6.6% had attempted. That's 1.4 times higher than the general public. Law enforcement and firefighters are at a higher risk of suicide than they are line of duty death. 17 to 24% of our 911 telecommunicators will develop some form of mental health complication. There was a survey performed by Bradley University where 69% of EMS providers polled said that they did not have enough downtime between traumatic calls and back-to-back shifts that they worked. Council, I come to you tonight as a person who is very passionate about mental health. The most important portion of our mental health is the recovery time. Time with family, time away from the high-stressed environment that is fueled by the chaos. This time away may give our employees a chance to go see that ball game that they've missed of their kids time and time again, celebrate that birthday, spend time with their family. This time away comes from annual and sick leave. While improving monetary compensation is always welcome, sometimes we have to evaluate the benefits that are also offered. Tonight I speak to you on these facts as you as council work through improving our county employee policies. When reviewing the policy accrual rates, all employees receive 1 day of paid leave per month as a base, and this increases every 5 years. The only county employees that are exempt from this are the ones in our public safety realm. Our 12-hour employees as a base receive 8 hours of annual accrual starting out. Our 24-hour employees receive 12 hours per month starting out. The only time that it actually accrues to a full day off of time for our 24-hour employees is after 20 years of service. At that point, they get a full 24 hours off. Council, I ask tonight, as you review the policies, that you look into possibly changing and adjusting slightly the accrual rates for our public safety professionals. I ask that you will watch out for their mental health, watch out for their time away from work to give them that good work-home balance. Keep in mind that these are the people that answer those phones when our citizens call 911. These are the ones that respond in the face of disaster. These are the citizens who these are the employees who take care of our citizens of this county, even when they don't have time to do so themselves. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Champion. I think Mason McClure.
Give these two.
Yeah, the clerk of council, please.
Okay. Mason McClure, 7259 Henry Harris. I'm actually here today to ask council to reconsider the vote that was made on August 26th for rezoning our application. I have given you all packets for a chance for you to look over, to ask any questions or concerns that you may have. I've outlined in your project or in your packets, I'm proposing a complete renovation. The building has been vacant for nearly 2 years and hasn't seen any updates since 2003. The project will involve complete upgrade of the office interiors, exterior facade, parking lot fencing, and landscaping, all of which will be brought to 2024 code. Total investment of this project is about $700,000. We postponed the project for about 10 weeks so that our engineers and artists had time to satisfy staff requests and perfect the details, ensuring that the project was thoroughly reviewed and approved by staff before it was brought before council. Unfortunately, you did not receive that information before that date. You know, we're family owned. My wife and I are very hands-on owners. We deeply care about the vehicles that we repair, about the staff and the community, and would love the opportunity to grow our business in Indian land. We plan on hiring 15 new employees, transferring 4 from our current location, 3 of which already live in Indian land. Our current location repairs about 100 vehicles per month. 26% of those vehicles come out of South Carolina. It's a little over $1 million a year in lost revenue. Imagine being in my position. I've dedicated months of work starting in March and have invested tens of thousands of dollars and countless hours just to be denied over a clerical error. Seems a bit unjust. All of my information is on that packet. If you had any questions or concerns, I can answer those for you. But with my last 53 seconds, I just want to say that when I left here on the 26th, I felt like this system was broken and I felt like I was not being treated fairly. But that man, Luis, picked up the phone and called me, and we met. And regardless of what happens on a vote today or 2 weeks from now or whatever, you restored my faith in this system, and I thank you for doing that. Regardless of not asking for an additional vote, but I just want to say that you did not have to do that. I appreciate what you did. My family appreciates it. My employees appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you in front of all these people for doing what you did. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. McClure. Bruce Cohen. There he is.
My name is Bruce Cohen, 7199 Chrysanthemum. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, today I drove through Indian Land on 521, nightmare, like every day, like everyone knows, and it had to do with poor planning. And I know that a lot of the poor planning was 15 years ago, and I know some of you have approved things and added more to the traffic issue. That's not why I came here to speak, because the nightmare is there. You guys are trying to put together a plan to fix it, and hopefully you do. The reason that I'm speaking today is from Walnut Creek down to Lancaster is starting to fill up. And it's the same thing, it's 2 lanes. And I'm watching all the building, and I read somewhere something about Lancaster just approved 1,500 homes. They'll be up by next year, I'm sure of it. Within 2 years, that's 1,500 cars. Well, actually 3,000. One way there, one way back. And I'm sure they're going to Charlotte. I mean, we are a suburb of Charlotte. And it's going to be the same nightmare. Are there plans? You guys are trying to fix 521 North. Is there any chance of fixing 521 before the nightmare happens? Because it's going to be exactly the same. Instead of being a 5-mile, 1-hour run or half-hour run, whatever it is, now it's going to be 25 miles, just nightmare. And is there any chance of fixing this before the houses go up? Of just expanding it, making it right, not having to move the telephone poles 5 separate times. What was that, $1 million each time you move the telephone poles over? Millions. Every time, we're going to add an extra turn lane. We're going to add an extra straight lane. Make that turn lane and widen it one more. And it just keeps on going. It's a lot of wasted money. Is there any chance of, instead of making decisions after the problem, fixing the problem beforehand? Any chance on that? Thank you. Thanks for listening to me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Let's move on down to our special presentations tonight. We have our recognition for our Employee of the Quarter 2024, Mr. Marstall, our County Administrator.
Mr. Chairman and council members, it's my distinct pleasure that we're going to recognize some county employees who, on behalf of the 650 full-time employees with Lancaster County and our roughly 300 part-time and seasonal employees, hopefully our citizens have had the opportunity to interact with our staff. Certainly see a lot of it through our public safety. And so what we do with our quarterly awards, we do on a quarterly basis where we do a separate Employee of the Quarter for public safety, and then we do an Employee of the Quarter for general government. And so a lot of times our public safety folks have the opportunity to shine a little bit more given their public-facing role, but a lot of the work that's being done also is from a lot of our folks that you don't see, who are behind the scenes. And so we have had over 17 nominations for this second quarter. These are all nominations from peers within the workforce to recognize some folks here in the audience. So what I want to do tonight is ask everyone that I call forward to come up. We'll line up here in front of the dais. Then I'll give you your certificates, and then we will announce the Employee of the Quarter for Public Safety and Employee of the Quarter for General Government. So, and I know some folks actually are working, so they won't be here tonight to be able to join us, and some folks had some other plans. Including our first one, Andy Rowe, who's with our Stormwater Department. He's not able to join us tonight, but Connor Higgins from our IT Department was recognized with a nomination. We'll do a recognition at the end here. Keith Fail, Connor, come on up here if you'll line up. Keith Fail from our Animal Shelter, who's not able to join us. Then we have Lisa Henson, one of our faces when you walk into the building downstairs is our reception area, Lisa Henson. And then we've got Wayne Blakeney, who is from our building maintenance department. He's not able to join us tonight. Jim Kiley's here. He is our manager director for our GIS, which you see his work online. If you've used our tax parcels, you've certainly seen Jim's work. Cliff Henson from our Recreation and Parks Departments, not able to join us. Matthew Cox from our Building Maintenance has been recognized. He's not able to join us tonight. Brandon Reed from our Fire Service was also nominated from our Public Safety Group. And Brian Collins from EMS is here, is recognized and nominated. We have Jamie Deason from our EMS as well, who's been nominated. She's here with us tonight. Julie Bryan from the Sheriff's Office was nominated for Employee of the Quarter. Lisa Douglas from EMS was also recognized with a nomination. She's here to join us tonight. Matthew Taylor from the Sheriff's Office is not able. Garrett Temple from the Sheriff's Office is on duty tonight. Monica Graham from EMS. We had a lot of EMS folks nominated this go around. And then Kendall Knight also is from our Sheriff's Office and is on duty tonight. Oh, there we go. We got some, there. They are on duty tonight, but they're able to join us. So thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Out of this group, and maybe someone who's not here, is actually going to be named the Employee of the Quarter. And so we will name first the Public Safety Employee of the Quarter, everyone representing 911, EMS, Fire, Coroner's Office, Sheriff's Office. And in that group, our Employee of the Quarter for Public Safety is Mr. Brian Collins from EMS. Congratulations. That one's yours. And then, although everyone here is on pins and needles for the general government, Mr. Cliff Henson from Parks and Recreation got the Employee of the Quarter for them. So I want to recognize everyone. We'll do a quick group picture, and congratulations.
And we do appreciate all our county employees. Great job that they all do here in Lancaster County. Let's move on down to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 7A, 7B, 7D, 7E, and 7F.
All right, have a motion. Did you say C too?
Yep, A, B, C, D.
A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Mosteller, second from Ms. McGriff. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval of our consent agenda. Let's move down to our non-consent agenda tonight. 8A Resolution 1283-R 2024. This is a resolution to direct county staff to take appropriate action to move forward with the United States Department of Health and Human Services Grant Match Award. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Ms. McGriff.
Second.
And a second for Mr. Louise. Mr. Morstall.
Mr. Chairman, council members, good news. Our EMS department has applied for a Department of Health and Human Services grant and have been awarded that if we so choose to accept it. It is a 2-year grant. Very exciting. As we've talked, we have a EMS high school program. It trains high schoolers who want to go into the profession. This is an opportunity for funding to train our general citizens and others who want to be in the paramedic or EMS profession. And so this is a 2-year grant that allow us to establish our own in-house training program to produce paramedics within our community. So it's a great opportunity. It's basically a $400,000 grant over 2 years. It does require a little bit of a local match, which would be $19,986 a year per year, so roughly $40,000 over the next 2 years. So very good news if we so choose to accept. And the motion before you is a resolution to appropriate or concur with the grant match. There is funding available in our grant match budget. And we would then appropriate money in next year's budget for the other $19,000. It's a 2-year commitment.
Go ahead, Mr.
I just want to congratulate Clay on this grant. I think it's going to really help Lancaster out, and I know you'll do a good job on implementing.
I'd like to second that. I think Mr. Cato has done a fantastic job advocating for his department, doing things that go above and beyond what other local jurisdictions and municipalities have done in our area. So really great job. Thank you, Mr. Cato, for everything that you do to support our county.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Lancaster County EMS has been a leader of EMS service in the state, and once again, we are setting the bar a little bit higher for everybody to try to follow. And thank you to the EMS personnel that have pursued this grant, and good luck on great success as you implement it.
Hey.
Clay, I'd like to congratulate you also on this, but y'all are already doing a fine job with the program that you got, getting your own people, getting them ready to become the EMTs and paramedics. But I can only imagine what this is going to take you up to, so I'm looking forward and excited to see where it goes. Thank you.
And I echo everything that they've said. So
As do I. But it also goes, to show that Lancaster County is getting recognized statewide because of the great leaders we have in all the departments in Lancaster County.
all right, any more discussion, any questions? Hearing none, we're ready to vote on Resolution 1283-R 2024. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Let's move down to 8B. We have a public hearing and third reading of ordinance 2024-1915. This is an ordinance to authorize the execution and delivery of a special source revenue credit agreement by and among Lancaster County, KCH Real Estate LLC, and LCI Lineberger Construction. Ms. Carnes.
Good evening, County Council members and County Administrator Mr. Marstall. The Economic Development Department has brought before you Ordinance 2024-1915 and Exhibit A, which reads, to authorize the execution and delivery of a special source revenue credit agreement by and among Lancaster County, KCH Real Estate LLC, and LCI Lineberger Construction, Inc., previously identified by the county as Project Aurora, including and related or affiliated entities providing for special source revenue credits, and to express the intention of council to provide monies to the Economic Development Fund. KCH Real Estate LLC and LCI Lineberger, Inc. will be making an investment of approximately $8 million in new equipment and creating a minimum of 10 new jobs. The company is projecting a total of 30 jobs once they reach full capacity. The expansion will take place on the company's current property located at 1490 Kershaw-Camden Highway in Lancaster, South Carolina. The project is being supported by the state of South Carolina in that a grant has been awarded. The Special Source Revenue Credit Agreement state the incentives as follows. The agreement is structured with a fixed millage rate at the 2023 rate of .34550 for 20 years, and an SSRC of 25%, which runs for 5 consecutive years. In the event either the company fails to comply with the minimum contractual investment requirement or the company fails to comply with the minimum contractual jobs requirement, the special source revenue credits applicable to each FELO payment provided in Section 3.01B of the agreement shall be terminated on a retroactive and prospective basis, and the company and any affiliate who previously received the benefit of any SSRC shall pay to the county the difference between the FELO payments theretofore actually paid after making into account any SSRC that did apply to such FELO payments, and the FELO payments which would have been paid in the absence of any SSRC, together with interest on such difference calculated in the manner as provided in Section 12-54-25 of the Code or any successor code provision. The Economic Development Department recommends approval of the third and final reading of Ordinance 2024-1915.
Any questions for Ms. Carnes? We have a public hearing scheduled on this ordinance, but no one signed up, so we'll move past our public hearing, and I'm looking for a motion
Motion to
bring
approve.
this matter to
Second.
the floor. I have a motion from Mr. Carnes, a second from Mr. Marstella. Any discussion? I think we're ready to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval, third reading of ordinance 2024-1915. Let's move down to...
Mr. Chairman, if I may just for a second, Ms. Carnes has been with our Economic Development Department for a few years now, but it's a mighty team of 3, and this is her first economic development project. So I want to recognize her for her work on our local company.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carnes. Let's move down to 8C. We have a public hearing in third reading of ordinance 2024-1924. This is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2024-1910 related to the appropriation of funds and the approval of a detailed budget for Lancaster County for the fiscal year beginning 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Ms. Prejunak.
Actually, I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. If you do have some detailed questions, this is the third reading where we did talk about we're recognizing new revenue from the state for our libraries as well as for our transportation program. And as well, we want to make some adjustments to the fee schedule. We had some Scrivener's errors, as we call them, some minor adjustments. And then the third item was appropriating over $26,000 from the general fund balance to the fire service fund for some software. So we're accomplishing 3 things in this third reading tonight.
All right, any questions for Mr. Marstall? All right, we do have a public hearing scheduled, and no one signed up, so we'll move past our public hearing, and I'm looking for a motion to bring this matter to the floor.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
from Ms. McGriff, second from Mr. Graham. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, I think we're ready to vote on third reading of ordinance 2024-1924. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Third reading of ordinance 2024-1924. Let's move down to our public hearing and third reading of ordinance 2024-1925. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 7 of the Lancaster County Code to resolve conflicts between the county code and the South Carolina building codes. Ms. Harden.
Hello. This is, like you said, third reading. The ordinance to amend the general code to reflect the practices in the international code, which is adopted every 3 years by the county and by the state. The purpose for this, as I just said, the previous concerns that we have heard from council meetings is that there is a section in the code that allows a building official to revoke a permit due to error, and we've been asked to provide resolution for that. We've added an administrative relief section to the code in answer to that. So since the second reading, the changes that were in the packet on the red line were highlighted in green, and I'll go over those. First thing we did was I picked up on the fact that we still have the word standard codes in there. It's been very many years since we went by the standard, the Southern Building Codes Council and the standard codes. We are now with the international codes, have been for many, many years as the state has adopted them, so I wanted to reflect that. In the next section that we have amendments, this is the area where it says any building permit shall become invalid unless work authorized is commenced within 6 months of its issuance or after commencement is discontinued for a period of 6 months. The building official is authorized to suspend or revoke a permit issued per the guidance in the administrative section of the adapted code series, which refers back to the international code. What we added at the end is that in case where there is where a permit is revoked due to error by the county, the owner may seek remedy via the administrative review process outlined in Section 7-200. 7-200 doesn't currently exist. Later on in this ordinance, we propose to create it. I want to thank Ms. Merck DuPont for putting in some examples for us to work with and things that we can add in. This will be in addition to any remedy as an aggrieved party might have at Law and Equity. We do not intend in this to revoke any legal options that the applicant may have. So under that new section, the administrative remedies, we describe the rights that the applicant has to financial relief. The county administrator is authorized to direct reimbursement and permit closed and applicability. So first, if the owner or contractor has had their building permit revoked under the administrative rules of the adopted code due to an error of the fault of the county, they shall have the right to file for financial relief within 10 calendar days of the date the permit is revoked. The owner or contractor may file for reimbursement of all related building fees at the start of the beginning of the permit process. We do not typically give reimbursements for building fees, and building fees can be quite substantial. The county administrator shall have the authority to direct staff to issue the reimbursement. Reimbursement shall be paid to the same person who paid for the original permit and shall be made within 10 calendar days of the decision. So you've got 10 days to appeal, and we have to turn that money around in 10 days back to you. Official county holidays do not count toward that 10 days because I know someone's going to ask that question. If the owner or contractor requests and receives reimbursement for the building permit, the permit is considered permanently closed. If you get money back for the permit, that permit does not exist anymore, so you cannot move forward on that permit. If you want to move forward on the project, you have to start anew. That is a standard kind of codicil as well. If the revocation is due in any part to incorrect, inaccurate, or incomplete information provided by the owner, contractor, or their agents, or is in violation of any ordinance or regulation or any of the provisions of this code, the Unified Development Ordinance or adopted building codes, the option in Section 7-200A is not applicable. So that refers back to, again, that this is applied if there is an error from staff, that this is an option for them. That other errors, and this is a copy straight from the other sections of the code, that if there's an error in other reasons, then this is not an option. We also noted when we were going back through and double checking our work that the Construction Board of Appeals that is currently, or that we have on record, is missing a enabling legislation. It was in the UDO. Previously, it is no longer in the UDO, and it doesn't exist in the section of code, so we proposed to add it. We took the language of the standard building code, adopted it to the current international code, and made references where it was appropriate. So this would give a Construction Board of Appeals, because it wasn't specifically outlined in the code that there was a way to appeal the decision of the code official. This talks about the board as it has been constructed. You guys have, the county has a building code board of appeals already, but we don't have the provision in there in case it falls out and gets reconstituted. So we copied that from the code boards and some of the provisions that Ms. Merck DuPont has put in the issues for the councils. Board members shall be composed of individuals with knowledge and expertise in the technical code, such as design professionals, contractors, or building industry. When you're going up against the code official, you really want people that know what's going on with that. The Board of Appeals staggered terms, that's a standard opening process for a board. All members are expected to attend the board except for a valid cause upon prior notice. One of the bigger challenges with this board is the last time they met for any reason was about 2012. They meet when they are required. It's been since 2012 since someone has appealed the building official. I think that says volumes about our building official and his fairness and his ability to interpret the code. In case you don't know, our building official is one of the few master building code officials on record with the International Code Council. There's fewer than 30 in the state, if I remember correctly. And he is one of the first ones that came through. Super, super knowledgeable. All members shall serve without compensation and at the will of council. The meeting shall be 30 days after notice of appeal has been received. I discussed with the building code official that they would have a standing meeting every month, but he said, we only go where they're called, and that way it's within 30 days of the action. They don't have to wait for a deadline and wait for another month. The board establishes rules. The building official or the official's assignee shall act as a secretary of the board and make detailed records. That refers to the minutes. The minutes shall be reviewed by the board and accepted at the following meeting, and a copy will be given to the court. That, again, is pulled from the newer process that Ms. Merck DuPont has provided for review. It talks about how to constitute a quorum. Again, there's an ex officio member, which is the building official, but he is not allowed to vote. And then the powers of the board are to review appeals, decisions of interpretation of the building official that they can appeal. They can authorized to appeal the decision when any one of the following conditions are claimed to exist. This is straight from the International Code Council books. When the true intent of the applicable code or the rules legally adopted thereunder have been incorrectly interpreted, when the provisions of the code do not fully apply, or where an equally good or better form of construction than allowed in the code is proposed. That last one is pretty key because if someone comes up with a better stick, you really want to let them use it, but it might not be according to the code, and this gives the board the ability to adopt or to allow that to happen. They're not allowed to waive the authority of the code. They are provided with notice of appeal, and the decisions of the Construction Board of Adjustment provided to the applicant and posted in the office of the building official. Every decision of the board shall be final, subject, however, to remedy as an aggrieved party may have in law and equity. That's how we've handled the request. Happy to answer any questions, and I will punt to Ms. Merck DuPont on any legality parts.
So the appeals board can overrule a building?
Yes. If one of those three conditions has been found to be met.
I'm not sure how many people know we have a board of appeals. I didn't know we had a fire board of appeals. Now I don't know we had a board of appeals for that too, but I guess you can appeal everything.
If you have extra time, at any time on our website, there is a tab that says boards and commissions, and it lists all 22, and you can find out about them.
It's also challenging for a council member to find a member for all of these different boards.
Agreed.
With expertise, and that's a key part.
Agreed. However, this is adopted in the International Code, so we've adopted the ability to do that.
So I had a couple of questions, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So it identifies and defines the Lancaster County building official. Is that a defined term?
Yes.
In the ordinance already? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. To Mr. Graham's point, where it's saying that that the board members should be composed of individuals with knowledge. So I agree with that, but I think if we have some hesitation, it's council's right to approve or disapprove any member. So I don't want to restrict our ability to do that and to be flexible. So I'm wondering if we should just say board members may be composed of individuals. That way it gives us some flexibility if we're running into some challenges. And then I would like to add legal professionals in addition to that, because legal professionals can include judges and lawyers who are familiar with these codes as well.
True. I would hesitate to add judges on there in case they are hearing the next appeal, but I can understand the legal part. When we are interpreting code, the word should acts as the word may. Should and may are the same. They are not requirements.
Okay.
It is will and shall, which are requirements. But I'll be happy to change it to may if you like that word better.
I think for me it sounds different.
Okay, happy to make that change.
And then the last thing is in section 7301E. We talk about if any member is absent for 3 consecutive meetings without a valid excuse, it's reported to the chairperson of the board, and it treats it as an immediate vacancy, when I think the boards and commissions that we're dealing with in the following paragraph says that that should happen with a vote of the county council.
Okay, we'll
So we probably
change that.
skipped a step there to
But
add.
we'll change the language to match the last edits to the code that you made.
Yep.
And we'll make sure that they match lockstep.
Yep. And those are all the amendments that I would propose if everyone is on board with that. And I want to thank you, Ms. Harden, for making these changes and kind of being aware and cautious with the concerns that we had as council.
You're very welcome.
Do we need an amendment to change that? All right. Do you want to propose an amendment?
So the amendments, as I have them in my head, is that we have the word should is changed to may, and that's in section 7301B.
B.
All right, and then I also have that
We also add legal professionals to that section B.
yes, legal.
And then in subsection E of that same section,
All members expected to attend meetings, yes.
Yep.
So let's mark all of subsection E to be amended to reflect the language that's in the pending ordinance for boards and commissions for that kind of discussion.
yep.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, to be clear, we have the public hearing first, and then we'll need the motion and second to bring this to the floor. Then during discussion, we can do the
Okay,
amendments.
all right. Any more questions for Ms. Harden? Hearing none, we do have a public hearing. No one signed up for this, so I'm looking for a motion to bring this matter to the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Graham, second from Ms. McGriff. Now, would you like to make an amendment?
I would like to make an amendment that Ms. Harden was just referencing to change section 7301 subsection B to replace the word should with may, and to add legal professionals as additional professionals that may be on the board. And then to amend subsection E in that same section 7301 to reflect the provisions that are going to be in the next ordinance approval regarding boards and commission policies on removals from positions.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for Mr. Lewis, second for Mr. Carnes. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, we're ready to vote on the amendment. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Any more discussion on the third reading of ordinance 2024-1925? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote on third read of ordinance 2024-1925 as amended. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. We have unanimous approval of third reading ordinance 2024-1925. Let's move down to second reading of ordinance 2024-1926. This is an ordinance to amend the county Code, Chapter 2, Administration, to add general provisions for boards, commissions, and similar entities. where the majority of the members are appointed by the Lancaster County Council. Mr. Marstall, Ms. Mert DuPont.
Mr. Chairman and council members, as you highlighted, we just heard, we have over 22 boards and commissions where volunteers serve as an advisory board. Some of them are quasi-judicial to provide advice and guidance to county council. And so part of this work that we've done in the conversation tonight is to basically streamline some of those provisions. So some of the same provisions apply to all. If there's removal procedures, anything else that needs to be addressed that we've brought forward in the first reading, I'll ask Ms. Mert DuPont to highlight some of the changes that were brought up by council and are now referenced for the second reading.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, as we've discussed at our last several meetings, the committee of the whole meeting as well as your last council meeting, we are bringing these general provisions forward to you to bring uniformity to our boards and commissions across the county, the ones that you appoint the majority of, and mainly their advisory boards. We've discussed this and we've taken back your feedback on the last two meetings, and it's been a lot of good feedback. So what I intend to do this evening is, with your approval, is move through the slides, and there will be red on the slides to show where we made the changes based on our last conversations. So the first section was just general powers and duties. Based on our conversation last time, there was some concern over the language and the time and schedule of meetings. We have changed that to now say basically that every board, commission, or entity shall schedule 2 or more meetings a year. So they must have 2. They can schedule more if they would like, but that was based on our feedback last month, or last meeting, excuse me. The rest of that provision there were no changes there whatsoever. The residency requirement, there was no discussion or requested changes there. On the terms, we discussed the terms ending as opposed to December 31st as was proposed to be June 30th of the last year would be the end of the term. We made that change. And on the reappointment on the term limits, we added language to say that the term limits can be waived by a 2/3 vote of county council, which was your request. On the next one, on attendance, we cleared up some of this language as we were just discussing in the last ordinance. 3 consecutive misses of meetings would require a vote of county council for removal. If they miss more than 50% of the meetings in a calendar year, then that would be a removal without a vote of county council, and that would require some notice to the clerk, and the clerk to council would send out those notices. We made that change there to make that clear so that it would be understood how those 2 removals would happen with attendance. On the next one, on conduct, we removed language dealing with for cause, and where other language that said where members had engaged in conduct that was contrary to the interests, they would be removed in positions vacant. We did leave in the language that says that our members of boards and commissions and similar entities should be acting in the best interests of the county, because we felt that was important to leave in there. The next one is service and removal. On the first part, we talked about members of boards and commissions serving at the pleasure of county council. We had a lot of discussion at the last meeting about whether there could be an instance where an individual council member could remove someone. We have taken that off the board completely because that really doesn't happen in these instances. These are for the general boards and provisions for the things that you as a council appoint. There may be council members who have districts represented on these boards, but you all vote for them, so they will all be removed by you at the same way. So basically, the way they're appointed, the way they're going to be removed, that's in that first section. In the second section, we talk about for cause removal. We brought in some of the instances of for cause there that were in the last section. We just moved those over. And if there is a for cause removal under one of those instances outlined, that goes through basically almost a trial type procedure, and hopefully something you would never ever have to do. On the next one, training, there was no requested changes there. On the copies of minutes to be filed, we had some discussion about how we could get that done, particularly if boards and commissions were not meeting more than twice a year and there was some time lapse in between them. So we've given them 60 days to get those minutes approved and allow for the allowance of electronic meetings to handle minute approval or other administrative matters if they do not have a meeting in between the time when those minutes would be required to be turned into the clerk of council. We also discussed requiring audio recordings of these meetings. So we've added that provision, and that those recordings would be provided with the minutes to the clerk to council. We also added language that if live stream is available, we would request that that be utilized. I will say that in discussions with the clerk to council, that those audio recordings may be a bit of an issue. As I understand, we do not have enough audio equipment to take for these recordings, so that may be a budget issue that you would need to look at in the future. We don't have enough to have those transported. A lot of these boards and commissions do not meet on site. So that would be a budgetary concern potentially that could come up. And at the end, on disestablishment, we changed that language to basically say if they haven't been meeting in 12 months or they no longer are deemed necessary by council, they may be disestablished and their functions completely dissolved or reassigned. And again, if they are created by legislation, we must disestablish them by legislation so they will just not go away. So those are all the general provisions that we have proposed. We have made the changes based on your feedback the last couple of meetings, and we're here to ask you for second reading this evening, and of course to take back any more feedback and make any more changes you would like between now and third reading.
Go ahead, Mr. Costello.
I'd like to thank everyone that was involved with this, getting this through, Mr. Pond. I'm sure you had a lot of hands in this, but for adding it where we can stay on, they can stay on with the supermajority. That will keep our boards healthy with experienced people. So I appreciate you doing that.
Certainly.
But I got another comment about 50%
Okay.
removed. Now, the Planning Commission, they meet 26 times a year. That's a lot of meetings to miss, 13. I would think maybe any board that meets more than 12 times a year requires 75%.
Okay.
I mean, that is a lot of meetings to miss, 13. And if you would come up at 75%, that would require more.
Are you looking for the distinction there for those that meet once a month, minimum being the 75 and then others being 50?
Yet others being 50
Okay.
meet once
Okay.
a month or 12 times a year.
Okay.
Versus the Planning Commission meeting 26 times a year.
Gotcha.
That would be 75%.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we make that distinction in there, that there's two difference. There's a 50 and a 75 based on how much they meet. Okay.
Let me get a clarification. They have meetings and workshops, right?
So we've got on there regular, special, or workshop, so we included everything.
Okay, so workshops are included.
Yes, ma'am. As it's currently written, yes, ma'am.
The comment I would have is, you said if the board doesn't meet twice a year, it's dissolved.
If they don't meet, I think it was, if they haven't met within 12 months, they're required under this to meet at least twice a year.
Yeah, I know, but and I'm thinking about these marginal boards, like the board of, like the one we just talked about, the Crunching Board. We talked about the Fire Board and the Assessment Board, and sometimes they don't meet.
Correct. So the way we can handle that is, I mean, we're requiring them to meet twice a year, but then with the disestablishment that says if they have not met within 12 months, it's still got to come back before you in order to disestablish it. So if you deem that that board, for example, the new board that Director Harden is suggesting, or just that you just adopted, if it hasn't met because there wasn't a need for it to meet because there were no appeals, then you wouldn't need to disestablish it. That's something that you can make that choice. It doesn't automatically go away.
So that's a council decision.
Correct. It would have to be disestablished the same way it was established.
So Mr. Chairman, were you going to say something?
Go ahead.
No, if you were going to say something.
My only concern is, like on the Planning Commission, you're counting the workshops,
Yes.
but those are non-voting meetings, correct? Just like our,
Correct.
they're not,
They do vote under.
It depends. I mean, so
you can conduct business at the workshop,
per se, yes.
they can make recommendations.
Depends on how the meeting is set up. I mean, we'd have to look at the agenda.
Okay.
It would depend. But that's in discussion with the several staff liaisons. It was requested to make sure we include everything, special, regular, as well as workshops.
Okay. and they still have to come back from council before they be removed, correct?
Well, it's
Not
the
for that
three,
one.
for the three consecutive, it has to come back to you. If they miss more than 50 or now the 75, that's an automatic removal.
That's what I was going to ask. So do we want that as an automatic if they miss more than 25%?
We can change that to be a vote as well, that it all comes back before you.
Because it may be a reason, and
Okay.
I think it needs to come back before council.
Okay, we can do that.
We can look
Would
at
you
it.
support that? Okay.
Okay, we can make that change. We'll change it to be any attendance issues comes before council for a vote.
That's fine. We're just going to be made aware of it, correct?
You
Correct.
you need an amendment on that, or you're going to?
We can do it between second and third reading, if that's okay. We can bring
Okay.
that change back, those couple of changes back that you've requested
Okay.
this evening.
All right.
We have excused absentee.
There are within the different, in looking at the different boards and commissions setups, there are ones where there are excuses. So this is not trumping that. So if it's in there, since you're not trumping that with this, it would still live in that enabling legislation.
How would we recognize that? Would that be something that's read into the minutes, or?
I'm not sure how it's been handled. I think what we've talked about was once this goes through, having some training with staff liaisons to discuss all that, and then we can get some things like that read into the minutes, have it approved, have it go to the clerk of council, however it needs to be done. We can make sure those things are documented properly.
Okay.
All right.
I had a couple
ahead.
of questions just on so section 2305 on attendance, when we're talking about, I know we're revising the one about to 50% and 75% so that it's all, but we don't clarify that it's a majority vote on that one. And I don't know if that had to do with the requirements that we were talking about, I think, last meeting, where it was, if it's a statutorily required board, that it could be a different. So I don't know how we address it, but I feel like there's something missing there still about what's going to be required to remove them then for attendance. And maybe now that it's all 50% or a majority vote, that it goes back to council, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because we've got in the first line, we talk about the three consecutive by a vote of the county council.
Yep.
And then the 50% was without the vote of county council. So now we're just going to basically remove that without the vote of county council, and we'll just make it all a vote of county council. So it would be majority by default, but I can add the word majority if you'd like.
Yeah, just so that we're clear that that's
Okay.
what we're talking about, because then we're talking about the supermajority for
Correct.
keeping them on.
Okay.
So that's,
I'll add the word majority there as well.
and then and we could talk about this later, but just kind of how we're defining certain behaviors, and just because you had said that's going to be hopefully it never gets there, but if it goes, it's a case law issue.
Right.
So just to put some reasonableness standards around there so that
Okay.
we don't get in trouble as well.
Okay, sure, we can do that.
And that's in both 2306A and in 2307B.
I think we removed it from 306B. We're removing it all from there, and we just moved it down into the service and removal.
Right.
We stuck it there. So yeah, so it's removed from the one. It'll only be in the other, but we can change that language in 2307.
Well, in
B.
2306A, where we talk about members shall not engage in conduct that will in any way reflect adversely, I think we can say reasonably
Okay.
adversely affect.
All right,
Because otherwise, we could get ourselves in trouble.
okay.
And I think that takes care of that one. Oh, no, sorry. And then in 2301C, where we talk about the boards and commission members will be required to attend a training class or view a training video prior to taking the oath of office. But it seems like it could be in conflict with section 2308, where we talk about within the 12 months they're taking training. So I don't know if this is a separate thing that we're talking about, and maybe we clarify that.
I'll get with the clerk to council on it. That lived in the ordinance prior, so that's why it was remained there, because I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but we can work that to figure out with the training section that we're adding.
Just to make sure that they're not in conflict. Yep. Thank you.
Any more questions? Discussion? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote on second reading.
We don't have a motion on second reading yet.
Got a motion on this one yet?
So moved.
To approve.
Second.
You got a motion from Mr. Carr and second from Mr. Mosteller. Sorry about that. All right, any discussion, more discussion? Hearing none, we're ready to vote on second reading of ordinance 2024-1926. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. Let's move on down to second reading of ordinance 2024-1927. This is an ordinance entitled, the title is to adopt amended personnel policies for Lancaster County in accordance with Lancaster County Code, Chapter 2. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. Carnes, second from Mr. McGriff. Mr. Marstall, Ms. Parker.
Mr. Chairman and council members, we've had a first discussion on our first reading about changing the personnel policy basically through updates to address some things from Fair Labor Standards, from EEO, and other things. And so we have a wholesale review for you, also to go through what was discussed during first reading. And Ms. Harden and Ms. Parker will go through those changes with you.
Chairman Harper and council members, we are here for the second reading of Lancaster County Personnel Policy. In the last week or so, we had the privilege of having a Teams meeting with Councilmember Luis, Attorney and our outside labor attorney, Joni Winters. We would like to sincerely thank Mr. Luis for that meeting and allowing us that time to go through the policy, go through the updated policy and review and discuss those concerns. That was very beneficial to us in getting to that third reading. After that discussion, Debbie took all the notes and amended the updated policy. You have the most updated version with the latest changes in blue, and any language that was removed is highlighted in yellow, and Debbie has prepared some brief slides to walk you through those updates.
So under the general provisions section,
You move the mic toward yourself,
Sorry.
Debbie.
1.4 removed language and added a reference in accordance with applicable law. And this was so that there would be less updates needed in the future if there were state and federal law changes. We added back some language that was red line crossed out that the administrator approving moderate alcohol use at designated social and business functions and removed certain specific exemptions may be granted by the administrator. And then 1.8, we added to the list that HR and the county attorney would have access to the personnel records. And that was all under the general provisions section. Under the employment relationship section 2.1, we combined and reworded some language regarding securing workstations and removed the e-waste policy since that's part of a process for IT. We also removed the sentence regarding encryption and use of passwords, added the word personal where conducting county business devices that are subject to FOIA if used for county communication. And 2.6, we added consistent with county maintenance standards under the equipment paragraph. Under workplace safety, 4.2, the previous language in that 4.2 caused a gap in time between injury and workers' compensation payment. The updated language allows for the employee to use sick time for the first 14 days. And then 4.4, we clarified language regarding non-employee and non-business passengers riding in county vehicles. Section 6, new hire entrance, 6.1 and 6.2 removed language related to equal opportunity employment since that statement's found in section 1.4 of the policy. Employment status, hours, and payroll, section 7. 7.5, our labor attorney will be adding additional language to this section since there's been some law changes. That will be in third reading. 7.7, removed bullet point related to FLSA and overtime rules since overtime is addressed in 7.2. And then 7.8, we removed redundant classification system paragraph that's in 7.1. Also added a sentence regarding vacation request during the 2-week notice. Section 9, employee benefits, removed and reworded policy so that it's more generic to the benefit plan in case there's changes in the future, and added county funded benefits are subject to budget appropriations. Leaving employment, section 10, we added language under the voluntary resignation that when an employee gives a 2-week notice and the county does not require the employee to work all or part of that notice, the employee will be paid for the notice that was not worked. Employee relations, section 11. 11.2, we changed language in 2E regarding the minutes being under the direct control and disposition of the clerk to council when a grievance involves the county administrator. Also, under special note, we added language regarding home rule and employees of council. And that was the majority of the changes. And then we have questions.
Any questions? Discussion?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to thank Mr. Luis for the time that he spent working on this with HR. I think the changes are well received.
All right. No questions?
I got some questions.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Mr. Mosteller, go ahead.
Yeah, in here on this remote work, I just got some notes here, I'm sorry. Remote work, I know there's some exceptions that you have, but I'm really concerned about the high numbers doing it. Didn't you say like teens?
No, I say right now, remote work, and again, if you're talking full-time, I think there's only 2. And even that, there is still a requirement at the very beginning of employment to make sure there's on-site premise work strength started. But there are some hybrid where I think the most people have to work 3 days a week and maybe have 2 days remote work. So it's limited.
Okay, and how many total are you have doing it? You said
Who are doing some type, who are, I'd say majority of their time is remote work. I'd say I think 2 that I can identify in our IT department.
okay. The only thing I'm concerned of is we don't have no way of monitoring what they're doing. Where a lot of employment places has a way of monitoring what they're doing for 2 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever. I noticed some instances where exceptions where you know, for people that need, but I just don't think it's fair to the other employees when they have to come to work every day and report and work all day, work 8 hours a day, versus them getting to stay home, stand in their pajamas, and no way of monitoring what they're doing. So I have just some little bit of issues with that. The pandemic's over, so I think people that can be here need to be here and on site. That's my personal opinion on it. And when you're not here, return calls. If some of us or anybody else in the department heads needs them to return calls back, because I've made calls before and hadn't received a call back.
Well, I will say on performance, everyone has weekly, monthly tasks, and particularly in the IT department, there is an understanding about performance, whether or not they're getting their tasks done for the day. So I will say there is a performance monitoring based upon activity or project, whatever it may be. So I think in particular the 2 employees in IT, they do have metrics for outcomes to achieve on a weekly basis. And others for the remote work, if you're working remote maybe 2 days a week, there's still expectations of what is being achieved on that day or those days. And so I think the performance monitoring is there. So I think it's been a well-received for those who are able to take advantage of it, but clearly it's not for every position. And so we try to make that clear that we have a lot of front-facing employees, certainly, who want to be available for citizens, depending upon the different offices. But for those that it is suitable, it's a nice opportunity to be able to offer it.
more discussion?
So-
Hearing none.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So I had about 10. There were some like corrections, tweaks, and things. We can either talk through them separately, or if you want to go through them now, we could, but I didn't want to waste folks' times going through. Separately?
Are they language edits, or are they something that has a council needs a discussion?
It's
Is it the meat or is the?
It's a lot of the same stuff. It's like stuff that we had talked about that's just clarification and just go, yeah. So just making sure that all the ones that we, yeah.
We didn't do that, we just didn't put all those little ones.
Because you've already met. I mean, I assume that most of this is.
It's confirming that it's some of the things that we had talked about, just making sure that they were added that weren't added, or things that may have been missed. So it's just going through those.
The smaller things,
Yeah.
Is that more about what's in blue?
everything in blue should have covered what we talked about.
I just heard somebody say he's an attorney.
Yeah, and we're talking about me.
I haven't practiced in a long time.
You're enjoying every minute of it.
No. No, I just want to make sure we're covered.
Well, what's your recommendation?
I think we can go through it separately. Because I can send you an email, Ginny, and just go through it that way.
I would prefer it that way myself.
I'm hurt.
No, we got trust in you.
All right,
Yeah, that's what it is.
it sounds like we're ready to vote on second reading of ordinance 2024-1927. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise, we have unanimous approval. Second reading of ordinance 2024-1927. Let's go down to 8G. We have a public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2024-1928. This is an ordinance to amend the zoning map, Lancaster County, to rezone approximately 36.14 acres located on 521 and Highway 9 bypass from LI to LDR, low density residential. Who's doing? Ms. Williams.
Good evening, Council. The item that I have before you is a rezoning request for approximately 36.14 acres that's located at the intersection of Camden Kershaw Highway and Highway 9, Highway 521, close to the Kershaw-Camden Highway. The reason the applicants have requested the rezoning is to make it a more marketable item. However, that is not something that the planning department puts into their criteria. I will talk about the relevance to the comp plan and the other planning items that we look at shortly. Currently, there's 2 parcels that will be combined together to be sold, and they have no plans to develop. They just want to sell it. The area in the comprehensive plan is listed as a growth area, which means that the growth areas are intended to support suburban scale residential development, along with supportive commercial development at major crossroads and along arterial streets and thoroughfares. As you can see by the chart listed on this slide, the property is surrounded by various different zoning, including other light industrial, neighborhood business, rural neighborhood areas, to all 4 directions. And this thing just quit working. Okay, as you can see from here, the picture on the right side is a snippet of the comprehensive plan that identifies this property as in the growth area. The property to the right is looking toward the intersection at the Kershaw-Camden Highway. These are the other 2 signs facing north and south from the Highway 9 bypass that shows that the signs were properly posted timely. The Planning Commission recommended approval 7-0 at their August 2024 meeting. There were no public comments at that meeting. However, we did receive one electronic comment in opposition of the rezoning request that should be contained in your packet. And I'll be happy to answer any
Would you
questions.
back up to
Absolutely.
the map that's showing, going back, you got the LI, and then right below it is also LI.
Right
The
below,
concrete plant is light industrial.
I think it's the
not
one, actually, it's
showing-
shortly above it, the purple, the light purple that matches that LI. It's just not labeled there.
So that's a concrete
It's
plant?
not showing up on the map, though. It should be, that's the 36 acres. Then the next thing we see is neighborhood business, which
Yes,
that's
sir.
misleading. This should be, this is light industrial next to it.
So I apologize. I didn't make the map, and I missed the label there. But the
right.
purple indicates light industrial that matches beside that.
Any questions for Ms. Williams before we'll have our discussion?
Okay,
Ms.
I'll wait.
But you want any questions?
Ask her the fact that that concrete plant is next to where they're wanting to rezone from, they want to rezone from LI to LDR. And they want to sell it to make it more usable or residential.
Yes, but that's what they put on their application.
And I can remember the last time up in the Bridge Mill area when they changed the zoning to residential beside the concrete plant.
It was a McPlant.
Yeah. No, it was across the street.
It wasn't in Bridge Mill, it was
Yeah.
on Northfield Drive, I think it was right there.
And
That's where the concrete plants are, but
Yeah.
it's the
it
development
was
right beside
next to
him.
Bridge Mill, right? And
Wasn't
we-
next to Bridge Mill, it's.
It was up there at the industrial park.
Well, we had so many problems, so many complaints with the residents next to the concrete plant. So I just want to make clear, if they're requesting it, do they understand that?
And two, this concrete plant's been there for 20-plus year, and they make noise with those dump trucks, and they have dust. So that was the complaints that we had with the one in Indian Land. So,
Yeah,
All right, let's have our public hearing before we get any discussion.
all right.
We do have a public hearing scheduled for this, and no one signed up. So do I have a motion to bring this matter to the floor? Motion from Ms. McGriff,
I'll second it to get it on the floor.
second from Mr. Carnes.
Yeah, I would say that there are definite issues with locating any kind of residential next to concrete plants because they start operation about 3:30 in the morning, and that clanking and everything. If somebody is aware of it going in there, they don't know what they're getting into. I don't think so. And we had multiple issues. That was part of my district at one time, and I had a lady just call and chew me out, and come to find out after all of it that she bought the house. She never visited the property, and the real estate agent never told her there was a concrete plant that was right behind her property. And, she's demanding to have something done, and I'm like, what are we supposed to do when you don't do your due diligence? So people need to do their due diligence if they're going to buy their house there.
But are we creating a problem? Because the same thing happened up at the racetrack when this development was proposed coming in, not knowing that the racetrack was next to it.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. As planning staff, our job is to tell you your options, and you get to make a decision. I can tell you from the planning staff that this is identified as a growth area on the comprehensive plan. It's listed on the future land use map. It is also surrounded by rural neighborhood business, so it's already has some neighborhood there. But historically, you guys have been the ones to hear the complaints and hear the issues, so I can bring you all the items and happily let you make that decision.
Yeah, but I would argue you have a responsibility not to put non-compatible uses side by side.
My argument is, Mr. Johnson has 3 pieces of property, and I just looked them up. The 2 lower properties are in B, but that concrete plant is zoned light industrial. And if we approve this, for the record, my name was Harper, was thrown out last week, and yes, this is related. The applicant is my mother's nephew, but I don't have a vested interest in this whatsoever. But we're creating spot zoning for that concrete plant if we put that right here. That'll be the only light industrial in that area. And the zoning across the road, I asked a question, if they had a developer, I might support it if they did, and I see there's no developer on here, so.
So Jenny, with the statement that Steve just made with spot zoning, where would that put us legally if we move forward?
Well, we cannot spot zone. That is improper. So, and I'm not sure. I think the planning director and Director Hardner up there, they can speak a little more because I haven't gotten into it as they have with this. But spot zoning is not allowed, so that would be a problem.
The way that we did a investigation on spot zoning in the last year when we talked about other uses, and spot zoning in particular is when you have a small area that doesn't meet anything else around it. Without this light industrial, if this light industrial tract is rezoned, there's 3 properties to the north of it that are operating under light industrial zoning. We would not be wiping out completely. What we would be is not supporting any future growth in that area for light industrial by removing this. That's definitely something that is up to council to decide whether they want to do that or not. We have had discussions in the past about the limited inventory of light industrial, in particular in the Indian Land area. We talk about it more in the Indian Land area because there's more employee or more people in there, so there's more opportunities for employees in those areas. But I can understand Mr. Harper's concern about spot zoning. It is not a technical spot zoning. It would definitely severely diminish the light industrial in this area.
Well, I do have a problem with next to the plant, and we're creating a potential problem. Just like a lot of people now don't visit, they buy these houses online, they look at them, and when they come, it is what it is. I don't want to create a potential problem for people who are moving into this area next to a concrete plant.
I understand, and I definitely understand that point. When we get applications from the public, we have to move on them. We don't have the opportunity to tell someone they don't have the right to petition to change.
No, you don't, but you have the opportunity to make recommendations.
We do have the opportunity to make recommendations.
We have a motion on the floor. We got a public hearing. We had that, right? Okay, yeah, we did. We got a motion from Mr. McGriff, a second from Mr. Carnes. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Mostel.
I got a heartburn with rezoning light industrial and heavy industrial because those zonings create jobs for Lancaster County. And the more we rezone this to where houses and stuff like this can come in, the less areas that our economic development director is going to be able to lure these people to come in and create jobs. And that is real big with me, is creating jobs for our county. So I can't support this for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Mosteller. We don't have a large inventory of light industrial to rezone it, but my major concern is this concrete plant that's been there for a long time.
All right, any more discussion? Hearing none, I think we're ready to vote on first reading of ordinance 2024-1928. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. First reading of ordinance 2024-1928 is defeated by a 0-4 and 6 opposed. Let's get on down to our discussion and action items.
Yes, I'd like to bring something up.
All right, go ahead.
I'd like to bring up a reconsideration of the resolution 1265R 2024 that had to do with the McClure Collision Center.
Second.
All right, we have this is a motion to reconsider. Have a motion for Mr. Lee, second for Mr. Carnes. We need some discussion on this, some more details.
Yeah, we definitely need a updated TRC. We need that because that caused me concerns that we didn't have that in writing at the last hearing, and that is not the applicant's fault.
Do we need this motion to reconsider? Does this come at the next meeting, or we have the motion now, and this will place it back on the agenda?
If there is a positive affirmative vote, then yes, it'll be on the next one because it was a resolution. So with only one vote, we need to put it on the next meeting so there's proper notice.
Yep.
Okay.
We need to go ahead and vote on that.
If you're done with discussion, then yes.
Any more discussion on that?
No, and I just want to say, after meeting, with the landowner or the prospective landowner and looking at the site, looking at what they're doing, reading what's in the materials that I think were handed before you, in my mind, there's a very different set of circumstances from what I had seen before, which is part of the reason why I'm asking for this reconsideration.
All right, and everybody's good? All right, so we have a motion on the floor to reconsider. No more discussion. We'll vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. And this resolution will be placed on
the next
meeting, the 23rd.
23rd.
And before we go into executive session, I'd like everybody to thank Ms. Simpson and all the staff. This is our first meeting with our new agenda, and I think it went off pretty well.
New agenda software. So we're using software to help us with our agenda formation.
And Mr. Chairman, can I just say if any citizens have any trouble, they can please call me, and I'm happy to show them the links and how to look at the new agenda software.
And Ms. Simpson, I am online and ready to go.
All right, do I have a motion to go into executive session to
moved.
receive legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding the Lancaster County Airport Advisory Board?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Motion from Ms. McGriff, second from Mr. Graham. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. We are now in executive session.
All right, Charlene.
I'd like to call this meeting, Lancaster County Council, back to order at 8:30. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Motion from Ms. McGriff, second from Mr. Carnes. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval to come out of executive session.
Mr. Chairman, council met an executive session in regards to one item, the receipt of legal advice subject to the attorney-client privilege regarding the Lancaster County Airport Advisory Board. No motions were made and no votes were taken.
All right, at 8:31, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Mr. Carnes. I have a second from Mr. Louise. All in favor, raise your right hand. We have unanimous approval. This meeting is now adjourned.
Sherry, do we need these notebooks?